This is round 3 of the Hong Kong Master Ball League, and we're on the left, we have Choi and Fung, and on the right, we have Cheung Fung, also known as Tom Jern. And as you can see, we have Zamazenta and Tornadus versus Kyogre and Roaring Moon. So the thing about Tornado Roaring Moon is that Roaring Moon could go for Tailwind, but it is slower, but it does not have priority, so it will be slower than the Zamazenta. And Zamazenta goes for the body press onto the Kyogre instead of the Roaring Moon, because Roaring Moon could go for potential Terra Flying. And the Kyogre goes for a very weak Water Spout. Oh my goodness, the crit dealt 34 damage. And we see Choi and Feng going now considering his options. So a little bit of backstory: Choi and Feng is a really strong player who finished in top in finals of 2024 and top 4 in 2025. And we see Tom opting to switch out Kyogre into Fluttermane, and terrestrializing the Roaring Moon into Terra Flying to resist the body press damage from the Zamazenta. The Tornadus goes for protects. Goes for protects. And Zamazenta goes for protect as well. Oh, and Roaring Moon goes to the acrobatics into the Tornadus, but is blocked by Tornadus' protects. So, as I was saying, Choi and Fung is a very strong player in Masters Division, but Tom Jern, who just aged up from seniors, seniors, is one of the best team builders in Hong Kong. And Roaring Moon going for the knockoff onto the Tornadus, and Fluttermane goes for the Moonblast and knocks out the Tornadus. He switch swings to momentum in Tom's favor, but Fluttermane is now brought down to Sash by Zamazenta's Heavy Slam. And now we see Choi and Feng hovering over the Smeargle and bring it out. Smeargle has fake out pressure. Which and Smeargle could do some really, really annoying stuff. Really, really annoying stuff, especially with Moody and Spore. But this Fluttermane actually has to move Misty Terrain, which means that this Smeargle can't go for Spore. Where we see Fake Out going to Roaring Moon, and Roaring Moon flinches. So Fluttermane brings Smeargle down to his Focus Sash, and Dolores' special attack that it doesn't use anyways, and Heavy Slam picks up the KO on the 1 HP Fluttermane, and Fluttermane faints. Now, this is a crucial turn. Does Smeargle get a speed boost? Smeargle gets just the death boost instead. So now, Tom Jern actually has the speed advantage. And why is there a Groudon here? So, Tom actually bringing a dual primal team in 2026. Bring both Kyogre and Groudon on the same team. This Miracle actually goes for the Wide Guard, hopefully shielding its partner from Precipice Blades. Roaring Moon goes for the Tailwind to reestablish speed control so that Groudon can outspeed the Zamazenta. And Groudon goes for the Heat Crash and knocks out the 1 HP Smeargle. And Smeargle goes down. Zamazenta goes for the Body Press, but it barely does under half of Groudon's HP. And Kyogre and Calyrex comes in. This is a live art variant, but the thing here is that Choi and Fung still has Terra active, so this game could go both ways. And Color's opts to go for Protect, shielding itself from the acrobatics from the Roaring Moon. Tom not falling for it and going for the acrobatics, and actually Tom fell for it. And he crashed us. Really good damage. We see Choi and Fung trying to go for the double protect, but it fails. And Tom Jerk's Roaring Moon goes into it, does over half. We see the Groudon go for Heat Crash, KOs her Cataract Shadow Rider. And now it's Zamazenta versus Team Free, but don't count Zamazenta out just yet. And Zamazenta has the Water Terrorization, which means that it still has a chance of beating Kyogre and Roaring Moon. Does Tom go for a powerful water type attack, or does Tom read into it and go for Thunder on his Assault Vest Kyogre? You see Choi and Fung opting to terrestrialize his Zamazenta. This is a 50-50. Either Tom goes for Origin Pulse and does a little bit of chip damage, or Tom going for the Thunder and dealing massive damage. We see Acrobatics go into Zamazenta, notably critting it, and Kyogre goes for the Thunder and knocks out the Zamazenta, and Tom Jern crits the Zamazenta again and takes game 1. Now we're moving on to game 2 of the Best of 3 series, and we see Zamazenta and Tornadus being led once again. But Tom opting to switch his lead and going for Groudon Roaring Moon. However, this Roaring Moon does not have its booster energy active, and therefore its acrobatics doesn't do a lot of damage. We see Tom opting to go for the Protect onto Roaring Moon, and Choi and Fung reading into the Terra Flying and going for the taunt, but actually Choi and Fung covers for the option of going Terra Flying. Like going for both Body Press and taunts into it, which is a very safe play coming from Choi and Fung. So Roaring Moon does terrestrialize here, but Acrobatics is not doing much damage due to it not having its booster energy active. You see, Roaring Moon going for the no, not Roaring Moon. Tornadus going for the Protect, and Roaring Moon goes for the Tailwind on Tom Drum's side. Now, what does Groudon go for? Groudon goes for Heat Crash once again, but it lands in Protect of Tornadus. This is exactly what Choi and Fung wants. Choi and Fung can now stagger Tailwind, which means that if he could knock out this Roaring Moon, he would have the speed advantage for the rest of the game. Tornadus goes for Tailwind, successfully staggering a turn. Roaring Moon goes for Acrobatics, and it's enough to KO the low HP Tornadus. Now, Zamazenta goes for the Body Press into Groudon, brings it out to red once again, and Groudon goes for high horsepower, does a decent amount of damage into Zamazenta. And Choi and Fung going into Raging Bolts. Raging Bolts. Raging Bolts Thunderclap could threaten the Roaring Moon, and Zamazenta is faster than Groudon in Tailwind, so Tom is in a pin. So Tom is pinned right now. It's not looking good for Tom. It's not looking good for Tom. So Choi and Fung, as I was saying, there's a pin on the board right now. Tom could go for Precipice Blades, but Zamazenta is faster than Groudon in Tailwind. And Raging Bolts does threaten K a big Oko onto the Roaring Moon. However, if Tom's last Pokemon is Kyogre, then it takes a lot of damage from Thunderbolts. So Tom's last Pokemon is Kyogre, and it's going to take this massive Thunderbolt. Kyogre's Drizzle does shut down Raging Bolt's photosynthesis, but Raging Bolt is holding the booster energy item. As Tom goes for a double switch. Actually, I lied. It's not last. Sorry. It's it's been a long day. And we see the Assault Vest Kyogre taking a lot of damage from the Thunderbolts, and Flurmane crucially being immune to the body parts. However, a Behemoth Mash plus Thunderclap can still kill the Fluttermane, and Tom Jern will still be in really, really tough position. Really tough position. It's rough for both sides, actually. So we see Choi and Fung opting to Terra their Raging Bolts into Electric, which boosts its damage and also makes it neutral to Fluttermane's Moonblast. Fluttermane does go for Moonblast, does a good amount of chip. Zamazenta's Body Press does pick up her KO on Kyogre. And the Thunderbolts is going to bring Fluttermane to red HP. And Tom Jern's Tailwind is actually stopped. It's actually just stopped. So Roaring Moon is going to activate its booster energy now because it has been on Groudon's sun activating its photosynthesis. So there So here's the dilemma. Tom needs a lot to win this game, and Choi and Fung is in the driver's seat of this game too. If Tom wants any chance of winning this, he needs Choi and Fung to make a mistake. Choi and Fung goes for the Heavy Slam and the Thunderbolts into the Roaring Moon. As Fluttermane protects. And the Heavy Slam goes into the Protect. But Tom actually opts to go for the Acrobatics and does some chip to Zamazenta, but the Thunderbolt goes into the Roaring Moon, and we see Tom's face cam just being in agony. He's being in agony, I suppose. And now, once again, and Tom is in a really rough position. It looks like Choi and Fung has this endgame locked. Zamazenta is faster than Groudon since Roaring Moon did not go for the Tailwind last turn. and Raging Bolt's Thunderclap could KO the lowest shape Fluttermane. And you see Tom really thinking about this, potentially even stalling for time to think of how to approach a game free. Fluttermane ghostly protects. As Groudon ghostly protects, stalling for some more time for Tom to think about how to approach game free. And Raging Bolt's Thunderclap fails due to the protect. And Zamazenta does go for the body press onto the Groudon, but Groudon protects. That's Choi and Fung quickly locking into the same thing, but Tom is utilizing his in-game timer well by stalling and thinking of how to approach game free. This is just awkward silence. I do not know how to commentate over this awkward silence because I said what's on my mind. Because Tom is thinking of how to approach game free, and the Thunderclap goes into Fluttermane. Fluttermane, the crit was just overkill, and the Zamazenta goes for the body press onto Groudon to pick up the KO, and Choi and Fung takes game 2 of the best of 3 series. As we jump to game 3, we see that Choi and Fung leading with Tornadus and Zamazenta again, and Tom Jern reverting back to his game 1 lead, going for Kyogre and Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon does activate its Synthesis using its Booster Energy item, and this is once again a very dynamic turn 1. Choi and Fung could double protect, scout what Tom wants to do, and stagger a turn of Tailwind, and Zamazenta could just Terra Water Wide Guard, but going for the body press into Kyogre is actually relatively safe because this is an Assault Vest Kyogre. It cannot protect. But at the same time, Choi and Fung is risking a potential switch into Fluttermane. And Tom actually taking the initiative to terrestrialize his Roaring Moon into Terra Flying. We could see an Acrobatics, or we could see a Tailwind. This is a really safe play because body press into the Roaring Moon, because Tailwind body press into Roaring Moon is pretty safe for Choi and Fung. So Roaring Moon does go for Tailwind, and Kyogre goes for Thunder to KO the doesn't KO the Tornadus. I'm sorry, I lied. Like, this Tornadus is really bulky then. Because it's just survived a Thunder from a modest Kyogre. And we see Choi and Fung thinking if he wants to go for the read of Heavy Slamming into the Kyogre, predicting a Flurming switch in. Choi and Fung needs to make reads or to win this set. And Tornado, we see no switches. Tornadoes go for pretty protects. And Roaring Moon goes for the acrobatics, hits into the Zamazenta, does a little bit of chip damage, and Zamazenta goes for Heavy Slam, doesn't do a lot of damage, brings Kyogre down to red, and Ice Beam goes into the Tornadus. We see Tornadus switch out first into the Raging Bolt on Choi and Fung's side, and we see, and Raging Bolt activates its Persistence by using up its booster energy item, and Roaring Moon goes for knockoff, and Zamazenta knocks out Kyogre with Body Press. So now this is a very, very interesting position because Tom could send in Groudon, and Groudon could just high horsepower either Pokemon or just go for Precipice Blades if Tom wants to go for that read. Raging Bolt is a very threatening past Paradox Pokemon, but not that threatening, especially in front of Groudon. Hold on. As we see that Choi and Fung opts to terrestrialize his Zamazenta into a water type, like to resist Groudon's fire and ground type attacks. Thanks, right? And Raging Bolt goes to protect, wanting to protect itself from the powerful ground type attacks that Groudon could unleash. And we see Roaring Moon go for the acrobatics again, getting some more chip on Zamazenta. Zamazenta goes for the body press, and Groudon goes for the high horsepower, which does decent amount of chip. Now we see Choi and Fung thinking of going for a thunderclap, but is it really the safe play? There is no safe play in front of such powerful Pokemon like Groudon. Groudon is actually one of the few restricteds that people have not really been using, and it's very, very interesting to see how Tom Jern actually built a team using it at Kyogre. This reminds me of the 2016 Dual Primals team. And we see Rillaboom come in and sets up the grassy terrain. Roaring Moon goes for the Tailwind, and we see Heat Crash coming into Rillaboom. Tom Jern predicting the switch, thinking, I know what you have in the back. It has to be Rillaboom. And Body Press does not KO the Groudon, which means that this Groudon is free to live for another day. To wreak havoc for another day. Hey, Choi and Phone now trying to double protect his stall turn of Tailwind so that he could stagger it for another turn and potentially convert it into a massive lead. But he just opts to protect the Tornadus, and we see Tom nodding. We see Tornadus going for the protect, Roaring Moon going for the acrobatics onto the Zamazenta. This time getting a high roll, and Groudon going for the high horsepower. And Zamazenta's body press finally knocks that Groudon. But here's the question. What is Tom's last Pokemon? And it's Fluttermane. Fluttermane is now the fastest thing on the field with booster speed and Tailwind. This Fluttermane is going to be unstoppable. Its Moonblast could KO both Zamazenta, Tornadus, and the Raging Bolts in their back. So Tom is free to just Moonblast the Zamazenta and knock out the Tornadus. Tornadus with Roaring Moon's acrobatics or knockoff. Gosh. Choi and Fung going for Tailwind and Heavy Slam. But, as I said, Fluttermane is still the fastest thing on the field. And Fluttermane goes for Moonblast, knocks out the Zamazenta on Choi and Fung's side of the field. And now Choi and Fung has to face a focus sash Fluttermane with only Raging Bolts. Raging, only Raging Bolts. That cannot terrestrialize. Even though grassy terrain might help a little bit, it's still going to get KO'd by the double up of knockoff and Moonblast. And now Choi Fung's in a really bad position. I don't think he has an out. So Fluttermane goes for Moonblast, and it picks up a KO on Raging Bolt, and Tom Jur, with his modernized dual primals team, takes home game 3 and the set.